Yorkshire got the better of Nottinghamshire on the first day of the LV County Championship match at Headingley, as the visitors were bowled out fairly cheaply before they tried to fight back with the ball. Chris Reed won the toss and decided to bat first, and Alex Hales and Phil Jakes, back against his former county, looked to get their side off to a solid start. Both hit early boundaries off Tim Bresnan and Jack Brooks, as 32 runs were scored in the game's opening 9 overs. Hales has been in wonderful form in the last week, but he was out the moment Stephen Patterson was brought into the attack. The batsman was on his way, bowled through the gate for 12. Bresnan then had Jakes caught by Adam Lyth at slip as the visiting team began to wobble. The Australian was out for 20 before James Taylor was plumb in front to Brooks, for whom that was his 33rd wicket of what has been an excellent championship summer for him thus far. And he had to wait only 4 more balls to remove Samit Patel for a duck, the batsman failing to get on top of the bounce to offer Adil Rashid a catch in the gully. That left Nottinghamshire in a bit of trouble on 46 for 4, the country's leading wicket taker getting one over the leading run scorer in the First Division. So it was left to another former Yorkshire player in Michael Lum to try to restore parity in this contest. He just began to settle the innings down in partnership with Ricky Vessels. Like Lum, Vessels proved that there were no demons in this pitch. He played some attractive shots as the fight back began. These to ensure that there were no more losses before lunch, before they took their partnership to 44 and the score on to 90. But minutes into the afternoon session, Vessels on 24 offered Brooks wicket number 35 with an edge which was gleefully snapped up by Lyth. It was becoming something of a stop-start innings for Notts in what has been a stop-start season for them. They now look to their captain to continue the fight. Reed decided to go on the attack, with these 4s being just a couple of 4 he struck in one single Brooks over, which ruined his figure somewhat. Lum, meanwhile, was trying to hold the innings together. He played well within himself as he advanced to 45 off 100 balls, this being his 7th boundary. It was his last one too, as he was then strangled down the leg side off Bresnan, the ball just bouncing a bit more than the batsman expected. Worse followed for Notts, as Reed, who'd made a run of ball 30, was run out by Jack Leaning after the batsman was forced to go wide after almost colliding with Patterson, who had his back to Reed. And when another former Yorkie in Ajmal Shahzad was LBW to Bresnan for a duck, the visitors had slipped to 139 for 8 inside 45 overs. There was then an alliance between Luke Fletcher and Peter Siddle, which at least earned Nottinghamshire a batting bonus point. Both decided that the best policy was to follow their captain's example by playing their shots. Fletcher has to be one of the most improved batsmen on the circuit, while Siddle has a couple of test match half-centuries to his name to prove that he is no mug with a bat in his hands. These two put on the best partnership of the innings, adding 65 runs together in just 11 overs to at least make the score look a little more respectable. Fletcher had made 29 when he was out, caught in the deep off a mistimed shot off Rashid. He left with the score on 204 for 9. Siddle added a run off the next ball to move on to 39, and then Andre Adams gave Bresnan another catch at long on, as the visitors had to make do with a total of 205. There were still 38 overs left in the day for Yorkshire to make the most of their bowling efforts, but to the second ball of their reply, Lyth, fresh from his outstanding double 100 last week, feathered Siddle behind to go for a duck this time. Siddle was immediately looking good, and he came close to removing Alex Lees, only for Hales to parry the chance in the slips. Not that Lees took advantage of that let-off. On 9 in Siddle's next over, the left-hander also nicked off at 21 for 2. So now that 205 was not looking so bad. Siddle hardly bowled a bad ball in his 7-over spell, with Leaning taking him for a 4 from the 13 runs he conceded. Leaning and his captain Andrew Gale had a rebuilding job on their hands, and they had laid a few bricks when the rain arrived after 16.5 overs to bring an early finish to what was an enthralling day. If the bad weather shifts, then Yorkshire will resume their innings on 52 for 2 on the second morning, with Leaning on 23 and Gale on 16. So the home side sit 153 runs behind their opponents with 8 wickets in hand.